And we're talking about solar credit, really. And the official name of solar credit, it is called investment tax credit. I know it doesn't sound really connected, but what the government is doing is they believe those solar investment you do, the solar panels you buy and things like that is part of the investment, right? So under the investment tax credit, he actually split it into for business and for personal. So today we will talk about both, because if you have a building, you want to put in the solar panels and to save energy bills, and then you actually, whether the building is a business or is a personal, and that drives your credit to go to a different tax return, right? So let's go with my prepared PowerPoint, because that is really, guide me to make sure I cover every angles for you. And we're here today for solar credit. I titled our webinar as a solar credit because I want to focus on the solar panel installation, things that just hot right now. There's just people out there, making this a sounded business, just doing solar side of things. So solar credit as today's topic. Of course, a note responsibility disclaimer, this is a free webinar and we give that knowledge free to you, and you go study more, understand more. When you really come to the time filing the credit, and or IRS come back denied your credit, and then that's when you really need the professionals to come in and to help you to accomplish that. But to understand what you entitle to claim, it is very important. All right, so let's look at this. I try to make it interesting. I'm really kind of boring. I don't have time to make it a confetti all over the place for you so you can singing and dancing while going through the webinar. No, this is just knowledge laid out. And this credit, the solar credit, is really just the investment tax credit. And I backslash that into business because I want you to understand the investment tax credit for residential building and for business building is not the same. They have difference, but not huge. But I will point out that difference to you. All right. So for the business one, and you see those, if you look at this little chart here, I stole that from Energy Sage. It's a energy organization, and they're big into energy savings. They give a lot of those information. Some of them are tax related. So this investment tax credit, and look at the ratio there in 2021, which is the year we are concluding, right? We're still filing taxes. If you have a business and you put solar panels on your business building, and the 26% of what? 26% of your cost. Let's say you cost for $10. 26% is what? It's $2.60, right? Let's say $100. So 26% is $26. That 26%, that $26, it reverses your tax. Reverses your tax, not income. So it is not an additional deduction like depreciation or bonus depreciation, right? It is actually reversing your tax, folks. So if you pay $26 tax, suddenly you don't need to pay. But what happens if you don't have taxes to offset? It gets carried over. So you don't lose it, and it is reversing your tax. So in 2021, that is 26%. 2022, this year, it is still 26%. But in 2023, go down to 22. 2024, right now, if the Congress don't change the law, and it will be going to 10%. Okay. So the ITC for business is laid out on Section 48 of U.S. Tax Code. Okay, it's the incentive for investing in clean energy by giving you credit on your tax equal to the percentage of the cost of your solar system. 26%, go back to the slide, 26%, 26%, 22, and 10. Just that's what we have right now. Okay. In December 2020, the ITC is 26% for solar panel installation. And in 2020, 2021, or 2022, in 2020. So the 2020 and it's 26%, 2021, 26%, or 2022, 26%. But 2022 percentage only applies to 2023, then 10% for 2024. So what is the condition? How do I make sure I qualify for that? Number one, you have to own, you have to have the solar panel system, right? You have to buy it upfront, or you have a loan, but you cannot be saying that I lease it, right? Lease is not ownership, right? So it is either you borrowed money to buy it or you bought it. So basically the ownership is yours. And secondarily, you must have liability, right? If you don't owe taxes, where are you going to reverse the credit? So this is a different tax credit, right? There's two types of tax credit, folks. Do you realize? One is what we call the refundable. The other one is not refundable. The refundable one means what? Means even though you don't have taxes, but if you have this $26, you get $26. So what is refundable tax credit? Child tax credit is refundable. Earned income tax credit is refundable. It's regardless you pay taxes or not, they give you that tax credit. But some of those tax credit are not refundable. They're credit to offset the taxes you're going to pay. So like a lot of credits are that way in business. So this one, it is actually a non-refundable, means that if you owe taxes, we reduce it for you. If you don't, you keep your credit in your system and you wait for the future years. All right. To summarize, if you lease your solar panel system, or if you are a nonprofit, you are tax exempt entity, you do not pay federal taxes anyway, so you don't have this ITC. So now let's look at ITC for residential buildings. Look at that. And I snap a picture for you because I want you to visualize what we're talking about. We're talking about these panels. They absorb the light, then they produce the energy. So definition of solar, of the product, the solar panel, it is also called, this credit is also called a federal home solar energy credit. So they have a lot of names, but it's ITC credit. So you can call that solar credit. The credit is federal income tax credit that claimed for a portion, 26%, 26%, 22%, 10%, remember, right? For a portion of the cost of a solar photovoltaic. Did I say it right? Yeah. Voltaic is voltaic. Well, is a voltage kind of, is producing the current for the electricity. So now you can prove that English is my second language. It's relating to the production of electric current at the junction of two substances exposed to light. So this is the definition of solar panel. And don't be creative. And don't tell me that you can build some wood board on the roof and qualify for this credit. No. So to be easy for those second language speakers, and they call that PV system, these jargons like abbreviations, right? You get there, and when you go to when you talk to your tax professionals, they throw to you of code 848, 67, 62, and when they talk about kids, they don't talk about the kids. They don't say that child tax credit. They give you CTCs and all of these jargons, just making people confused. But if you learn them and you kind of belongs to that group of people, know something different, know something more precise. So that's a solar PV system. So that's what the people calls. And if you ever talk to the suppliers and you see them using PV system a lot, so that is the definition of the product. So what is the timeline of this credit? This is the timeline for residential. The biggest difference on the timeline for residential folks, it is a 26% for 2020 to 2022, right? 2020, 2021, 2022. We are finalizing, some people already filed their 2021, but if you filed extension, you still have your 2021 on hand, right? So if 2022 you did not claim, but you did it, I would recommend you to go back to amend your 2020. And it is not it is not necessarily an oversight from your tax preparers. And I'll tell you, this solar credit was on and off for a little while between 2017 to 2020. It's very confusing with all these CARES Act and Appropriation Act. It just kind of got people confused. And, some people didn't claim it in 2020. But if you were there, you didn't claim it, 2020, 26%, that's yours. And in 2023 is 22%, but for personal, for the residential buildings, solar panel installation, this ITC credit is zero. You don't have it, okay? So unless the Congress, renews this credit, so it is in the mercy of the president and the Congress, right? The House or Senate has to make a proposal so the Congress can put that into law, and president can sign that into law, but it is not, we don't look at 2024. We just care about 2022 right now. And the 2023, you have it. It's still 22%. So this is where I sometimes tell you that when you talk to your tax person, you are talking to someone that should not have a big vision to the future, because they don't know who is going to be the president. They don't know what Congress is going to approve on the tax side of the law. They can advocate, they can participate, but they're not the lawmaker, right? Your tax preparers has no say of what's going on the tax form. So really, just don't be too visionary when you work on taxes. Look at your today, look at your past. If you did not claim the credit, go do it. Look at today. If you know this credit exists, maybe you are thinking of putting in your solar panel this year. Knows that next year is okay too, because you get 22%, right? Not 26, but 22. Know that this is residential side of things. So a good example, okay? A good example, you want to know that, first of all, before we go to that example under this slide, one thing I want to really say it very out loud. So some people would ask, oh, how much can I spend? So the solar panel, I can spend $200,000, and or I can spend $60,000. So how much can I spend? Is there any limit for how much I can spend? No limit, no limit. If it is 200,000, and then you have, then you install that in 2022, then it's 200,000 times 26%. That is your tax credit. So let's look at this example. In 2022, you paid and installed a 10,000 in the new solar powered system, 10,000, right? You spent $10,000. On your 2022 tax return, your tax preparer said that you owe $5,000 tax to Uncle Sam. And now you know that you got a receipt and you have this 10,000. 10,000 times 26 is what? 2,600. 2,600 will be reduced from your 5,000. So how much tax do you really end up paying? Not 5,000, it's 2,400. Does that make sense? So this is your 1040 tax return on the personal side. Of course, on the business side, depends on what entity you are. If you are 1120 C corporation, it will reduce your C corporation taxes, right? But if you happen to be 1065 or 1120S, then your K1 would reflect that credit. It will be moved over to your 1040. So the credit is yours. Just don't ever think that is not made clear to you. And this is why we are on webinars, because even if I try to, when I see your tax return and, you know, we see an invoice related to solar energy saving, but may not came to our mind for that moment to talk about the credit. But if you know it, what you're going to do? You came into the tax preparer's office, you already say something like, you know, I spent some money on the solar energy, solar panel, and I make sure that you apply tax credit for me. Do you have to know how to calculate that? Of course not. All you need to say is, here you go, I have a credit available to me. This is the power of know it. You don't have to know it all the way to know that what form to fill up, but you know it because you heard the Ying's webinar and you know that you can do it, right? So that's the power of know. And but it's not I'm not asking anybody to be a scholar. In fact, I don't want you to be a scholar. If you are a scholar, what am I going to do? I'm not going to go to apply for unemployment benefit. And in fact, I have never, ever claimed unemployment benefit, whether I was in Canada or in US. And I'm just not, I just never really had a chance to not work. So don't make me unemployed. With you all become scholars, knows everything, right? So this is the simple example I was just talking about. No limit on the amount that you can spend for solar. And then you have this 2020, 2021, and 2022, 26%. 23, you have 22%. 24 is too far away from us. Let's just wait to see what happens to presidential election, right? Then we will know better. All right. What if it costs more? So no big deal. Cost more, you deduct more. What if you did not owe taxes? No big deal. It will be in the storage for you. Almost like your solar panel, you can build a storage for your solar energy too, right? So in the residential, I'll touch on that. There is a big difference between the storage building in terms of the residential versus business, because the difference is there. So this is the next slide where I talk about the difference between the ITC for business is different from ITC for personal. How? And what is the difference? So I want to mention that to you here. In 2024 for business, you can still do 10%, right? The credit is still available for your total expenses times 10%. But for residential, it's zero. You don't have it anymore. Of course, don't have it anymore doesn't mean anything, because the law may change. The government, the federal government could have a new renewed energy. So to give more credit, if they are not trillions continues to be in deficit. All right, so construction must be done to claim for personal, but might not need it to be done to claim in business. So what they're saying here is that this is the second difference between your ITC credit on personal side or versus on business side. So if you are a residential building, you claim ITC credit, you have to get it done. The system has to work. So that day the system worked on your rooftop, that's the year you can claim the ITC. So don't run into 2023, you didn't even get done. Then January the 1st, 2024, you start running numbers on there. That wouldn't help you, right? If the law didn't change, you miss out the credit. However, and if you got a business building, and you install the energy. And that there is what they call the safe harbor clause that you can use to claim that without finishing. Okay, so this is the big difference. Just so you know, there is a thing called completion. It's different between the company, between the business and the personal. And for solar energy storage, you must, the difference is that the storage also costs, right? When you design your solar energy, and part of the design would be the consultant will want to know whether you want to have the storage or not. Let's say if you have a residential building, you spend the money to build the storage, that one is 100%, you can take the 100% cost and with the 36% to get the credit. So you're okay. You can, you don't have to get that storage unit to be renewable energy charged, because you don't have to use your renewable energy to charge the storage, right? You can use the regular energy, or you can use batteries and whatever you are doing. But for business, you must be 100% using the renewable energy to charge your storage in order the storage expenses to be deductible. Does that make sense? So when you look at the quote from your solar consultant and installer, and this will be part of the discussion. If you're a personal residence building having solar energy, it is not going to be much of a big deal because it's part of your expense, and then you can claim it at 26% as a tax credit. Right? Tax credit. It's not 26% deduction, folks, because when we say deduction, you reduce income, right? You reduce your income, then the leftover you pay taxes. That is the depreciation and the bonus depreciation. But for solar energy, those 26%, these are tax dollars. So it is much more efficient in terms of tax efficiency. Tax credit is way better than the tax deduction. Okay, so it's a 26% of that expenses become your tax credit. All right, it is not a tax deduction. Okay, how to claim it? So when you determine you got the receipt, you got everything, how do you claim that credit? And when you file your tax return, folks, there is no other way to claim it. This is your income tax credit. It is a credit against your income tax. When do you file your income tax? That is when you're going to claim it. But how do you do it? Let's look at this. I made a quick list on this. So there's two ways to get the credit, right? One is the federal, one is the state. Okay. Today, I did not go into the state. I'm just telling you that there are incentive programs in every state. So when you file your federal form 5695, and then the federal form, and in most of your tax preparers, they would have a research capabilities when they file that form, and actually whichever state you are in, the research will be done to see whether your state also have the same credit. Most of the state will base on what the federal has to give you a proportion of the federal tax credit, or they will have other ways to calculate it, but using the same materials that you need to use for your form 5695. So it's no secret. It's not hard. It's just in the know, just you know it. That's important, right? So now the form 5695. So let's kind of look at this steps in the form, and I kind of just give you the general step. You want to make sure your receipt is there, whether it's a solar energy storage receipt, solar energy panel, and I made a list of things that you can deduct, okay? The cost of solar equipment, of course, shipping cost. Do you know that shipping cost is included in there? And the consulting fee, yes. And if you come to me and ask for solar energy side of consulting, if I send you a bill and that is part of the consulting fee, but majority of the consulting fee is actually done by people who come in to look at your location, look at your rooftop, look at your open ground, see where is the most exposures they can find for sunshine in order you to put the system in place to worth it, right? You don't want to have your solar system under the shade. You know, I was looking at my roof. There's no way, because everything is under the big oak tree shade. There is no way I can install solar energy in my residence building unless I cut all the trees around the house. So, but some houses can, especially the new one, right? The trees are still small, but you want to consider that if you're going to use it for 10 years, in 10 years time, your tree came up, maybe you shouldn't plant that tree too close to your rooftop. So those are the things you look at, expenses, and then installation cost, of course, the purchase of any tools, rented heavy equipment, and all the associated permit cost, associated cost. The only thing you need to keep in mind is you cannot claim your labor as your expense. So let's say you are so good, and when your contractor was there working and you also helping, and you work whole day just like them. Of course, you pay bills for the contractors, but you are like, I didn't pay myself yet. Let's pay myself $1,000. No, you cannot deduct that $1,000, and for you cannot use that 1,000 to calculate solar credit. So now you kind of see how we are doing, and you know, all these expenses. So if this is 10,000, 26% is 2,600. That reverses your tax. Now, the residential energy efficiency property credit, this is the part of the ITC. So I want to bring it up here because this is not solar panel, right? They're not solar panel. And you see all of these are qualified for ITC credit. So anything that helping you to bring clean energy, so that would be in there. So this ITC has a bigger category than solar panel, but we today are focusing on solar panel. All right, I just want you to understand that. So the solar energy system tax credit in Iowa, I pulled Iowa's up because Iowa has this business installation and residential installation. They even have a website for you to apply. And they also say that applications are due from May 1st to December 31st, and of the previous years completed between May 1st to December 31st of previous year. So that means right now in 2022, I need to submit my 2021 to the state. So they have a separate site to claim it. So it is not part of your 1040 Iowa. And then they say that is first come, first serve basis. So with that, I want you to know the solar energy on the federal side is embedded in the 1040. With each state, it would be different. So it is something that you want to look into when you really are doing it, but knows not every state will have it. Some states are not adopting the federal energy credit. Iowa really, you know, for so many other federal programs, Iowa is the state that follows the federal really closely. So whatever federal passes, most of the time Iowa follows. So it is a state that really kind of want to be in sync with the federal government. But I'll tell you that there are states with very strong personality, let's put it this way. They see themselves as a separate government, so they have rules that is just different from the federal, and they make it different. They enjoy the difference, and maybe that just make them more sophisticated, however they think. But I personally just think that a lot of these things will be simplified if they all act like Iowa, right? And of course, Iowa is not the most tax-friendly state either. They charge They have death tax still. And like if you die and you inherit money, and if you're not a direct relationship to, it's not your spouse, it's not your mom or dad, and you're going to pay taxes. So that's called a death tax. Iowa is one of the 6 states has the death tax. And so those are, of course, it's going away. And I think, don't quite remember the past legislature, I think it's going away on 2027. I couldn't remember, but it is going away a little while. So don't die before that. Just make sure you stay alive and put oxygen on your face, and so you can survive. And, tax rules do manipulate when people should die. I hope nobody gonna kill anybody for tax benefit, but if you die in certain years, it's pretty sad. So if you die right now, there's $12.6 million exemption estate, so it's pretty good. So, all right. This is still going forward with Iowa. I really did not do a lot of studies about Iowa, about the state. So normally, our client has a clusters. So we have California, Minnesota, and Iowa, and we have a lot of clients. So I would say that if you really are into the solar credit side of things, just come back and talk to us, and we'll give you more information. And July comes and the legislature getting mature, so they will have new things coming out. And this is a changing environment. Is the stock market is changing every day. I know why you're calling me. I have people calling me every day on the stock market stuff because it's impacting their tax return for 2022. Some of the means you want to take is too late, but stock market is changing and the tax regulation incentives are changing. So you just want to keep up with our webinars, and we do tell you what is new, what is coming up. So I hope that gave you some good understanding of investment tax credit. Okay, and today we focused on solar panel installation, and we focused on business and personal. On the business side, your business property should consider on the business side, your personal side, residential property should consider in residential. And if the law doesn't change, residential, you better hurry up. You need to be done by 2023. For business, you have up to 2024. The last year is only 10%. So I hope that gives you a overall look of solar panel and the solar tax credit, investment tax credit, and I will see you again on Tuesday. Bye, folks. Hey, don't forget to join Minnesota Immigrant Entrepreneur Summit. And we actually have webinars, a real person talk seminars to teach business related issues, and really go on to iesusa.org to check it out. And those webinars, I know you will like it because we picked it because you were asking for those webinars. We have that there, not webinar, seminar. We have it there. And at lunchtime, we also have an award to give to the successful entrepreneurs and the business leaders. And I mean, I always believe in following examples, right? If you have someone you admire, you don't have to admire anybody, but if you happen to have someone you admire, you actually automatically following that person, even if you don't know. If you like my webinar, maybe in your mind, you're actually thinking, well, this webinar is really good. I wish that I do the same thing. So you automatically actually following something. That's a human nature. That's why we have God. And otherwise we'll be lost, right? So same thing. And if you look at these business owners, how successful they are, you'll be impressed, because I think you will get a hold of those people and following their footsteps, know how they are successful, then you can run successful business. Yeah, coming to the event, okay? IES, Immigrant Entrepreneur Summit in Minnesota. Go to iesusa.org. Talk to you, bye.